The 2025 MLB season has officially come to a close, and the playoff field is set after a not so dramatic Game 162. But there was one matchup that had to end to figure out what the playoffs were going to be. Mets going down to the Marlins, letting the Reds sneak into the playoffs with a tiebreaker. We will get to see a Red Sox versus Yankees matchup. We will also get to see a Guardians versus Tigers matchup, which the AL seems to have the better narratives going into this playoffs. But we do have the Dodgers, who did not get a bye. They had a 3 seed, which is kind of mind blowing with the money that they spent. But their bullpen kind of faltered here at the end of the year. But they were able to claim that 3 seed, getting to face the Reds, who you have to imagine they have the massive advantage over. But it is the MLB playoffs after all. Here's what your playoff picture looks like going into Tuesday, which is when the first games are. We have the 6-seeded Tigers versus the 3-seeded Guardians, 5-seeded Red Sox versus the 4-seeded Yankees, with the Mariners at the 2 seed. And look at this, the Blue Jays at the 1 seed. How many of you predicted that? I can't imagine very many of you, but they had an incredible year. Over in the NL, we have the 6-seeded Reds versus the 3-seeded Dodgers, the 5-seeded Padres versus the 4-seeded Cubs, and then you have the 2-seeded Phillies. And look at those Brewers at the 1 seed. Unbelievable year from the Brewers. And it's kind of mind blowing whenever you look at this playoff picture who the number 1 seeds are. You have the Blue Jays and the Brewers. I can't imagine very many of you predicted that going into these playoffs, but that's how it sits. On September 5th, the Guardians were 11 games behind the Tigers, but what they didn't realize was they were just on the cusp of an incredible comeback, an incredible end of the year stretch, going 19-4 in their last 23 ball games. But that was also helped out by the Tigers, who had the worst record in the second half after the All-Star break of any playoff team. They went 28-37, complete collapse, allowing the Guardians to come in and sneak in and win the division and get home field advantage here in this first round of the playoffs versus the Tigers. Now, what's difficult to predict is I still think the Tigers have a better roster. They definitely have a better number one. You've got Tarek Skubal coming in, who ended with a 2.21 ERA and 241 strikeouts. He's just the ace of the ace. I mean, he's the SP1. He's top 3 pitcher in the game, if not the best pitcher in the game. Tarek Skubal will be facing Gavin Williams, who ended with a 3.06 ERA, 173 strikeouts. Who's a good pitcher on it in his own right, but it's Tarek Skubal. Okay. Game 2 will be pitting Jack Flaherty versus Tanner Bybee, and I've got to tell you, Jack Flaherty was extremely difficult to own in fantasy baseball this year. And I know it's different pitching in the actual games versus fantasy, but I do compare a lot of things to fantasy because stats are stats. And Jack Flaherty, was left a lot to be desired. And I just don't know. You could get a Jack Flaherty that'll come in and strike out 10 to 12 guys a game. You can also get the guy who gets absolutely shelled in the first 3 innings. I just don't know if I can trust Jack Flaherty when it's dealing with the playoff game. So he's facing Tanner Bybee, who 4.24 ERA at the 1.23 WHIP is not great. He is a workhorse, 182 innings, actually pitched the most innings for the Cleveland Guardians. But Jack Flaherty had a 4.64 ERA, they had a 1.28 WHIP. So if the game happens, Casey Mize versus Slade Ciccone, and I actually really like Mize in this one, 3.87 with a 1.27 WHIP. Slade pitched to a 4.3 at the 1.19 WHIP. Now, Guardians will be at home. That is helpful. But if you're even looking at their lineups, I tend to like the Tigers lineup better, even though I think there's probably more swing and miss in their lineup. But Riley Green's their dog, 36 home runs, 111 RBIs, which is crazy good. And what a jump for him, especially in fantasy baseball this year, to see that. But Gleyber Torres, he was a sneaky good on base guy if you played in on base leagues with a 358 on base percentage and had 74 RBIs and 16 home runs. He added that at the second base position, which is thin. But if we're talking about in the playoffs here, Torkelson had 31 home runs. I think their lineup's better. Jose Ramirez over here on the Guardian side, and then you got Stephen Kwan, who's just a base hitting machine. And can get on base like nobody's business. But what you got to take into effect is momentum. And baseball's such a game of momentum that it's hard to ignore how badly the Tigers have played and how good the Guardians have played. So, if I had to make a prediction for this game, I would I I got to go with the dog. I can't go away from Tarek Skubal. I think he wins game one. I think the Tigers win game one. I think the Guardians win game two. I think they definitely get to Jack Flaherty. And as much as I want to pick Casey Mize, um, I think I do. I think the Tigers are better. However, I'm going to go with the momentum here, man. They are hyped. Their crowd is getting behind them. I'm going to go with the Guardians in three. Guardians in three with the Tigers winning game one, meaning the Guardians have to win the last two. And I think they get it done. Guardians in three. The New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox. What is there not to love about a playoff matchup between these two storied programs, rivals? Man, what a fun matchup this is going to be. It is at New York. New York went 94-68 this year. They actually had the same record as the Blue Jays. Blue Jays just had a better head-to-head. Boston went 89-73, but here is the one of the interesting things about this season is Boston actually went 9-4 versus the Yankees this year. So that does have some merit. That does carry a little weight, in my opinion. If you look at the pitching matchups, you got Garrett Crochet versus Max Fried, and you got to give the advantage to Garrett Crochet here with the 2.59 ERA to 1.03 WHIP, 255 strikeouts. However, Max Fried had a 2.86 ERA at the 1.10 WHIP, so he was not no chump either. This is going to be an incredibly good pitching matchup. Um, Game two pits Lucas Giolito versus Carlos Rodon. Lucas Giolito was a 3.41 ERA at the 1.29 WHIP this year, with Carlos Rodon 3.09 ERA at the 1.05 WHIP. But what I really, really like about Carlos Rodon is he strikes guys out 203 on the year with a 9.4 Ks per nine. And he stayed healthy this year. So I love that he strikes guys out. I give Rodon the advantage there over Giolito. And then game three pits Brian Bayo versus Cam Schiller. And in this game, it's really a coin toss here. I know Cam has pitched very well down the stretch at the 2.96 ERA and then 1.22 WHIP. He's only got 73 innings on the year. Brian, however, has pitched 166 innings with a 3.35 ERA and a 1.24 WHIP. But where this gets really interesting and the differences really add up are the lineups. The Yankees lineup is just absolutely just outstanding. You have Bellinger with 29 home runs, 98 RBIs this year. Aaron Judge, obviously 53 home runs, 114 RBIs, 331 average, 457 on base. Just name whatever you want with Aaron Judge, potential MVP. And then even Paul Goldschmidt had a really good year this year. I mean, his power was down, but he contributes in good ways with 76 runs this year. They've got a lot more pop. They've got a lot more power here than the Red Sox. But the Red Sox do have Duran, who he only stole 24 bases this year, but he scored 86 runs in 157 games played. And Bregman has been battling health issues, but when he's on the field, 18 home runs, 62 RBIs. And then down the line. They've got some other guys who have contributed, but it's just not as. I mean, when you're talking about Trevor Story is your leading RBI guy and leading home run hitter with 25 home runs and 96 RBIs, you can just tell the Yankees have the thump on offense. So if I had to predict this game, I would say, oh my goodness, I want to go Garrett Crochet there in game one, but I think the Yankees are going to win this series. So I think Carlos Rodon definitely wins game two. I'm going to say it goes three simply because the Red Sox have been 9-4 this year. I'm going to say Garrett Crochet wins game one and the Yankees win game two and game three to advance on in the playoffs. But would not be surprised if the Red Sox won because the Red Sox kind of have the Yankees number this year. So there you go with that. Coming into this matchup, you have the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Cincinnati Reds. Los Angeles Dodgers were 93-69. They won their division. However, they are the 3 seed simply because the Brewers won 97 games and the Phillies won 96. So let's not act like the Dodgers are chumps. 93 wins and not getting a first round bye is kind of crazy simply because how good the Brewers and the Phillies did. But they are still the Dodgers, even though they're the 3 seed. They're playing Cincinnati Reds, who are 83-79, and kind of backed into the playoffs a little bit. I mean, they were 7-3 in their last 10, but they got in. That's all that matters. They're a plus 35 on their difference with runs scored and runs against, but they do have a fighting chance in these playoffs because you have Hunter Green versus Shohei Ohtani in game one, projected starter. Hunter Green has been absolutely outstanding. He went on the IL there in the middle of the year, but this guy has been 2.76 ERA at the 0.94 whip. What's been clutch for Hunter Green, because in fantasy he was having the hardest time really taking that next step, is lowering the walk rate. And once he's lowered that walk rate, he is absolutely elite. He's 11 Ks per nine, but he only walked 26 guys in 107 innings this year. He is absolutely unbelievable. But he's facing Shohei Ohtani, and Shohei Ohtani, in his own right, is pretty stinking good. Albeit he's not throwing a ton of innings in each start, but that seems to be okay because he's pitching to a 2.87 ERA with a 1.04 whip, 11.9 Ks per nine, and let's just say it's Shohei Ohtani. So, game one will be an outstanding pitched game. It'll be a fun one to watch. Game two, Nick Lodolo versus Blake Snell. Blake Snell on the year, he's only pitched 61 innings because he was hurt, but he had a 2.35 ERA with a 1.26 whip. Kind of a high whip compared to his ERA, but again, he's a high strikeout guy, 10.6 Ks per nine. He does walk a lot of batters, 26 walks in 61 in a third inning. But when he's dominant, he is dominant. Nick Lodolo on the year, 156 innings, 3.33 ERA at the 1.08 whip, with a 9 Ks per nine. He pitched. He had a good year. He's had a very good year. And the if game will pit Andrew Abbott versus Yamamoto. And Abbott, 166.1 innings with a 2.87 ERA and 1.15 whip. He had a really good year. He was very good for fantasy. He was, but he's a low strikeout guy, 8.1 Ks per nine. But that can't. I mean, he led the team with the ERA at the 2.87. So he's a very, very good pitcher. But Yamamoto took another step on dominance in the MLB. 2.49 ERA, the 0.99 whip, and 173.2 innings pitched, 10.4 Ks per nine. He was absolutely unbelievable. Definitely pitched the most innings for the team. He had the most wins with 12, best ERA, but most strikeouts. All those things. And the Dodgers' Achilles heel, and I know I am not ignorant to the fact that I have not talked about the bullpens in the other matchups. But again, even though the Dodgers bullpen has not been great, I just don't think this one's even close. The teams are just vastly different. If you look at the lineups, the Reds lineup, they got Ellie De La Cruz, but listen to this. He only had 22 home runs this year. He played 162 games, 22 home runs, 86 RBIs. Must have been that torpedo bat, which, by the way, the most ridiculous thing Yahoo did in fantasy this year was put the torpedo bat icon next to the players. Ridiculous. Take that off. Anyway, I digress. 37 stolen bases for Ellie De La Cruz, but beyond that, I mean, you got Steer with 21 home runs, 75 RBIs. Their lineup is lacking in a big, big way. And then you talk about the Dodgers: Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Pages, Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Conforto, Will Smith, who had a big bounce back year, 4-4 on base with 296 batting average. I mean, this lineup is just absolutely stacked, not including their role players that they have. So I'm going Dodgers in 2. I don't think it's Hunter Green's great. Hunter Green's great. Shohei Ohtani matches him. And I don't think it's close. I'm going to go Dodgers 2. I'm going to move on from this one because there's not much else to talk about. Dodgers are just better. As much as it pains me to say this, the Chicago Cubs are in the playoffs. They are facing the San Diego Padres. The Cubs with a 92-70 record. What's most impressive about the Cubs are their 144 run differential. 793 runs scored, 649 runs against. They are a powerhouse. They are facing the San Diego Padres, who are great in their own right. 90-72 is their record with a plus 81 differential. And they've got superstar players as well. The pitching matchups for this crazy good matchup, that's going to be at Chicago, by the way, which is huge because I'll talk about that in a minute. But game 1, Nick Pivetta versus Shota Imanaga. Now, Nick Pivetta was outstanding this year. 2.87 ERA to 0.99 whip, 9.4 Ks per 9. Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable year. He'll be facing Imanaga. Imanaga on the year was a 3.73 ERA, but he matched Pivetta's whip with a 0.99 whip. He is not a strikeout guy, 7.3 Ks per 9, so he has to rely on his defense, but he is a great pitcher. So that would be a great game 1 matchup. Game 2 will pit Dylan Cease versus Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd for the Cubs this year was a very, very nice surprise. 3.21 ERA, the 1.09 whip. He pitched great. He led them in wins with 14 ERA, strikeouts 154. He did it all for the Cubs, and they really need him to step up. And he did. He answered the bell. Versus Dylan Cease. Now, Dylan Cease is like that firecracker that the fuse has went all the way down. You do not know if it's going to go off. You do not know if it is safe to go collect this firework, because he could either be the best pitcher in the game or he could be absolutely atrocious because of his walks. 168 innings pitched this year. He had 215 strikeouts, which is good for 11.5 Ks per 9. But here's where it gets ugly. 71 walks for Dylan Cease, and he had a 4.55 ERA at the 1.33 whip. He is dominant when he's on, but when he starts walking, guys, he cannot find the strike zone. So what will he do in his trip to Chicago? That'll be interesting to see, because Boyd is a 7.7 Ks per 9 guy. He is also not a strikeout guy. So they definitely throw the ball over the strikes in the strike zone and play defense behind them. So completely different mindsets as far as pitching. In game 3, the projected starters are Yu Darvish versus Jameson Taillon. Jameson had 129.2 innings pitched, 3.68 ERA at the 1.06 whip, but he's yet again another guy who does not rely on the strikeout. He had a 6.8 Ks per 9 on the season, compared to Yu Darvish. Now, Yu Darvish is getting older. We all know that. He had a 5.38 ERA, which which is not great, but a 1.18 whip, 72 innings pitched, 8.5 Ks per nine. But again, Yu Darvish is another guy that when he pitches great, he is great. So you can already tell the different styles and pitching lineups here. Cubs rely on getting the ball in the strike zone, playing defense behind them, and the Padres are more boom or bust. So what is going to happen? Well, let's look at the lineups. Let's kind of break it down here on lineups. Now, the Cubs had some guys that really perform well. Michael Busch, 34 home runs this year with 90 RBIs, 261 to 343 on base. Nico Horner, another great year, 297 to 345 on base. Pete Crow Armstrong, incredible first half, terrible second half. What Pete Crow is going to happen? I know he's hit a couple home runs here late, but his defense is just out of this world. 31 home runs for Pete Crow this year. Dansby Swanson, he only batted 244, but he had 24 home runs, 84 runs scored. And then one of my favorite Cubs, even though I'm a Cardinals fan, I love Suzuki. I think Suzuki is an incredible player. 32 bombs, 103 RBIs. He is just really, really good. And then obviously they got Ian Happ. And then, oh my goodness, they got Kyle Tucker. Now, Kyle Tucker has been hurt the second half of the year. But, if he is any kind of healthy at all, he is just an unbelievable player. It'd be interesting to see if they try to re-sign him or not going into the year, or going into the offseason, rather. But incredible lineup. But look at the Padres. Luis Arraez, you got 292 batting average. He's a hitting machine. Now I have my thoughts on him for fantasy because he's leaves a lot to be desired in fantasy because he's only like a few category deep, in my opinion. I try not to roster him in fantasy. But then they got Manny Machado, 27 home runs. The guy just keeps hitting. Fernando Tatis, 25 home runs. Actually stayed healthy this year, 32 stolen bases. What's key there is he had a plus 100 on base to average. It's what I like to look for because I'm still big on base guy. 368 on base for Tatis. And then Xander Bogaerts, 263 batting average, and Jackson Merrill. He started good, real struggle at the end. So, if you're going off of what lineups do I prefer here, I prefer the Cubs lineup. It's not even really that close for me anyway, but I prefer the Cubs lineup. But the bullpens here, Padres went and revamped their bullpen at the deadline. They've added a lot of good arms. They've got that deadly 7-8-9 in their bullpen, which is kind of what teams try to replicate of what the Kansas City Royals did back in the day whenever they won their World Series championship. So they've got it. They've got some high leverage arms in the back end of that bullpen. So I give the edge to the Padres on the bullpen, but can they get there with a lead? That is the question. Now, I want to go Padres here. I really do, but here's what's holding me back. Away from their home stadium, away from San Diego. San Diego is 38-43. 38-43. The Cubs at home, 50-31. They are dominant at Wrigley. What's going to happen, guys? Well, if I'm going to game one, I'm gonna go Pavetta. I'm gonna say Padres win game one. I'm gonna say the Cubs win game two with Matthew Boyd. I just do not trust Dylan Cease. I really don't. And as much as it pains me to say this, I want to say the Padres win, but I'm going to go the Cubs in three. I'm going to say that Jameson Taillon gets it done and beats Yu Darvish in game three. And I just think their lineup's a lot more deadly. I don't think the Padres get to the bullpen with the lead in this matchup. So I'm going to go Cubs in three. Oh, that hurt to say. That really hurt. Ooh, excuse me. That really hurt to say. So there you have it. Past that, if I get all the predictions correct, it would look like this. It would be the Guardians versus the Mariners in the ALDS. It would be the Yankees versus the Blue Jays in the ALDS. And on the NL side, it would be the Dodgers versus the Phillies and the Cubs versus the Brewers. Now, what will I go there? You're just going to have to find out, I guess, when we get there. So there you have it. That is what I think on these MLB playoffs. It's going to be a very, very fun playoffs. I cannot wait with all the narratives that are going on. I'm very excited to see the Mariners there. I'm very excited to see, even though they're a division rival, I'm very excited to see how well the Brewers played. And the Phillies are dominant. I mean, if I had to pick out really favorites, hard not to pick the Phillies to win it all. But I also look at path of least resistance, and they would have to play the Dodgers in round two if the Dodgers beat the Reds. Now, what a story the Reds would be if they end up going on a run. I don't see it happening, but you never know. It could happen. It absolutely could happen. And as much as I still think the Tigers are better than the Guardians. I would love to see Tarek Skubal pitching deep into the playoffs. Man, that would be fun to see. But there you have it. So get ready. Games start Tuesday. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. Baseball's amazing. And let's get it.